Open your eyes. In front of you, there are strange arrows and levers. Where do you think you are? That's right, folks. This is the interior interface of the Chevrolet Turbo Titan, a series tractor-trailer that is forgotten and unknown these days. In the 60s, America was obsessed with space. Car companies built rocket and moon rovers to keep up with the industry's needs. Chevrolet, the hero of our video, also kept up with the times. It assembled a truck with FM radio, cellular system, and even 2 steering wheels, one working, the other as a spare. Headlights and turn signals came out of special housings, and the gas turbine engine pulled over 77,000 pounds with 280 horsepower. Doors opened upward, like Ferrari, but the truck never reached the assembly line. The crisis hit. There was less and less gasoline in the USA. Under such conditions, people needed cheap cars, and the space design was forever forgotten. Chevrolet has always listened to their customers. If you want pickups, you have pickups. You want armored cars like the M6 Stagehound? You got them. Chevrolet created VIP cars for the president. Their cars were used by security companies. Let's find out everything about Chevy, where its logo came from, and why the development of the Camaro was kept in secret. (1878) Switzerland. Watchmaker Chevrolet witnesses the appearance of his 7th son, Louis. The baby doesn't understand that his last name means goat's milk. He eats porridge, gets bloated day by day, and starts skipping school because he has to help his father in the workshop. The Chevrolet family wasn't wealthy, but Louis had a gold hand. First, he repaired clocks. After he moved to France, he fixed bicycles, and then he evolved into cars, which at the time were called self-propelled carriages. The boy found talented teachers who calibrated the movements of his hands. Pop! And Louis is already a 6'5" big guy who competes in bicycle races. The first falls, the first victories. Firstly, his first place was mentioned in the local paper, and then he became a finalist in 28 competitions. Daddy Chevrolet apparently realized that there is no such thing as a lot of good children. He made up his mind and cut up little brothers for Louis. They jumped on their bikes and began to pedal the velodromes. Now there was enough income for the family. The bonuses from the races provided for the Chevrolets, and that was just a precursor to the heyday of this glorious family name. One day, Louis was repairing a tricycle. He bolted everything back into place in 3 seconds and went about his business. "Wait, young man!" There was a shout from behind him. Louis turned around and couldn't believe his eyes. In the tricycle seat was Vanderbilt himself, the famous financier, billionaire, and sponsor of auto racing. Slowly smoking a cigar, Vanderbilt said, "Your work is extremely skillful, Chevrolet. Cross the ocean. The sea is warmer there, and the speed is higher." The billionaire turned around and drove down the street, and in Louis's mind, the thought matured. We must conquer America. 1899. Louis Chevrolet arrives in Paris, where he changes workshops like socks. There he studies the structure of cars, touches the engines, and earns a coveted ticket. Sailing to the US, Louis runs into trouble. The firm he got into goes bust, and he has to moonlight as a mechanic and a chauffeur. While doing part-time work, Chevrolet met his wife-to-be. At least that was worth moving to the USA for. Then, Louis got a job at Fiat. He also found a job at a friend's car company. One day, Louis's co-workers got together in a bunch, looked him over firmly, and said to him, "Man, why don't you be a car racer?" At first, Louis was shoved into every track in a row. He was injured, hospitalized, and that was just the price of daredevilism and reckless driving. At one practice session, Louis even flipped over. The only reason he didn't get his head cut off is because he hid in the car. But for Chevrolet, the track was like a knife through butter. The public loved his escapades, and the newspapers lauded him as a madman or a daredevil. The organizer of the race was Vanderbilt, the man who predicted Louis's bright future. The Chevrolet name was all over the newspapers. The flash of a camera stirred the Swiss blood. When his fame blossomed, he was invited by Buick to meet the director named Durant. and after a coveted handshake, he became the head of the racing team. Bill Durant, the man was not as simple as he seemed. To find out how he made the world's greatest car company and why he got kicked out, click on the hint above and subscribe. So the director Durant had been ousted. Buick, Cadillac, Oldsmobile, Oakland, all of these brands had appeared with his help. However, he had an ace up his sleeve. Before he left the office, William grabbed a blueprint of a new car. He came to Lewis with the paper and asked, "Will you build it?" "I will," Chevrolet replied and set to work. Durant understood that the name of a famous racer would intrigue fans, so the company was named after Chevrolet. Lewis, however, did not run the company. Durant gave him the job of chief engineer, and that worked out to be a stepping stone into a trap. Okay, I'm revealing a lot. So far, the company needed a logo. No one knows how Chevrolet got its logo. Durant said he drew it from wallpaper. His daughter said Daddy accidentally sketched a cross at lunch, and his wife hinted that Bill stole the logo from the coal miners. Talk to women after that. Well, official procedures aside, in 1911, the Classic 6, the first Chevrolet car with electric headlights, a starter, and a powerful engine came out. The sleek lacquered doors, elegantly pitched roof, everything was expensive and rich, and suitable for the true nobility. Lewis was truly proud of his creation. Durant was far from happy. The price tag of $2,150 was beyond the means of ordinary workers, and instead they bought a simple Ford T. It cost 3 times less. Ford's cars were becoming more and more popular. The cars were spreading to Mongolia, and Chevrolet couldn't win back a piece of America. The Ford T was convenient, cheap, and durable. Everyone bought it, while the competitors' cars were nervously trembling on the roadsides. Durant realized it was necessary to stamp cheap goods. Louis Chevrolet became an obstacle. He fought and resisted in every way to have his name crowned with anything but the luxury class. The arguments with Durant intensified. Lewis shouted angrily, "I sold you my cars, I sold you my name, but I'll never sell you my soul." Bill once sarcastically hinted, "You smoke cheap cigars, Lewis. It's time you lived up to your standards." Not bad. My wife can't even get me like that. Lewis figured it out. He quit the company in a frenzy and then sold his entire stake. Who knew his piece of Chevrolet would be worth millions of dollars? And alas, Lewis founded firm after firm, but they all went bust. Chevrolet became impoverished and started fixing clocks, just like he did when he was a kid. Then he managed to get a job as a car mechanic. The job was given to him by the same General Motors that absorbed his promoted firm. Chevrolet works for a pittance. Then came aging. Lewis began to run out of steam. Doctors discovered he had atherosclerosis of the lower extremities, a disease of racing drivers that causes his legs to lose weight, hurt, and ulcerate. A clear sign of gangrene, unfortunately. Lewis had his legs amputated. He was unable to recover and died after the operation. Lewis was only 63 years old. He left our world on June 6, 1941. It's a tradition of our channel to remember good men. Although Lewis was hot, he was a hardy softy and had golden hands. Chevrolet has a monument in Indiana. May this video also resurrect the memory of Lewis, without whom the iconic company wouldn't exist. What about the company? Durant flooded the market with cheap cars, like the Chevrolet 490, with luxury gadgets like starters and electric headlights. People were buying up cars so fast that the mountain of bills that Bill was sitting on gradually grew to Kilimanjaro. There was really a lot of money. So much so, in fact, that Durant bought back the General Motors and started running Cadillacs and Buicks. Then came this, and this. These cars finally ousted Ford T from America's streets, and the company's tentacles were climbing to more and more American cities. Then the SUVs. This baby looked like an ambulance and had removable seats and an impact-resistant body. Thanks to this bus, Chevy drilled the market of SUVs for many years. The 40th year was a great year for Chevrolet. The company made 1.6 million cars. Bigger is better was the company's motto in the 40s, but new technology was also coming to the company, which was moving the brand forward. Wooden parts were being replaced by steel ones, new lamps were screwed in, bright and durable. All would be well. Build, sell, build, but World War II was coming to America. Either get ready or lock up the cabinets. We don't know how the company got through to the White House. There was probably an inside man in the government. In any case, Chevy snuck up on the government's office and got orders for casings, anti-aircraft guns, and bomber engines. The head of the company even got into the Department of Defense. In general, it is clear that connections are the most valuable resource. The generals smoked all night long and decided, we're done with ordinary cars, guys. Now you, Chevy, will assemble armored cars. And there's nothing else for you except Army orders. The directors of Chevrolet got a little discouraged. They sat down, had a smoke, and thought of something too. Now the rules were loosening in the factories. Each foreman set tasks as he wanted, not as the regulations required. There was a transport network between the factories, and resources were evenly distributed throughout the factories. It was under these conditions that this appeared, the M6 Staghound. The generals asked to make a light armored vehicle, and in fact got a tank. It shot smoke grenades and was equipped with 3 machine guns with a cannon in the middle. There was no longer a car, but the Optimus Prime. It weighed 31,000 pounds. The armored truck was good. Cannons shoot and the wheels melt the dirt. But the truck was the heaviest of all its fellows, and the money for its assemblage was large. It would seem, did Chevrolet not fulfill the order? Would the White House swallow up all of the plants and factories? Fortunately, there was a place for the armored cars. They were shipped to the Allies in Great Britain, Canada, India, and Australia. Even the New Zealanders got these babies. The company really did succeed. Getting into the government and army, that was the price of survival in World War II. So Chevy went back to civilian cars. We reel in the uninteresting. Here it is. Beautiful thing. I'm drooling over it. And we made a whole video about this car, the Chevrolet Corvair. General Motors was sued because of it. New buyers were afraid to get into it. Keep reeling. Keep reeling. My tongue is getting laden. Oh, Bumblebee. Excuse me, Camaro. Did you know that this beauty was being developed in secret? There was no word of the Chevy Black Panther. That's what they called the Camaro before it went into production. Panthers eat Mustangs. And Mustangs are Ford cars, and Chevy muscle cars had to eat their prey. Good irony. Learn from it, guys. Everybody thought the company was in its heyday. Both workers and officials drove the Chevy. However, the second hit came to the company. If the first one was direct, then the second one almost became an uppercut. October 6, 1973, Syria, Egypt, Iraq, and Jordan grouped together and point tanks at Israel. 250 helicopters, 1,500 planes, and 4,500 pieces of heavy equipment fly to Israel. The war seemed to be a foregone conclusion. Israel woke up. Israel stretched out. Israel turned around and struck the invaders so hard that the Egyptians were surrounded and the Syrians were completely outgunned. So Israel was approaching Cairo and Damascus. Both cities were capitals of the mentioned states. Just in time, Richard Nixon jumped in. We're giving Israel weapons. Now our soldiers will get in there too. The Arab presidents were already thinking of shooting themselves. But the idea occurred to them. Let's take the world's oil. And that's how the US ran out of gasoline. There were kilometer-long lines at gas stations. Even-numbered drivers could fill up only on even-numbered days. Odd-numbered drivers could only fill up on odd-numbered days, and so on and so forth. Naturally, nobody bought cars. The cars burned a lot of gas, and gas was extremely expensive. It would seem there were no buyers. Nobody needed the cars. What could one do? The way out was found: the small capacity cars. This is what the people with every liter counted for. Chevrolet Vega, burning engine, farting exhaust, the body that was rusting faster than my joints. A dream car, that's for sure. However, it sold well. The Vega didn't use much fuel, which was the main thing. It was possible to learn from Chevrolet to overcome crises. Not a midlife crisis, but the worldly kind. Tahoes, Trailblazers, Traverses. Nowadays, it's impossible to turn your eyes from Chevy models. These guys have built financial empires, and they drive Biden himself. Yes, they even made SUVs for FBI. What's the moral of this fable? There is no moral. The point is that our scriptwriter was too lazy to finish the text. We should give him a slap on his conscience. See you later, budding businessmen. I'm going for a cup of tea. And you have to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos. Be happy and don't get sick.